Welcome everybody to the Hearthstone Gold Team League from China. 4 players from this league will end up having a chance at getting to the World Championships by being in their localized playoffs against 4 players who get the most points. We are going to get straight into the action. It's going to be Jing from Suning and Lee from RNG. Excuse me if I miss a little bit on the first couple of turns. You can see there that Lee's in a pretty good spot with that Scrap Imp. And so we'll leave him to get on with making some monstrous minions while I talk a little bit about what is going to be coming up in the coming weeks and months. We're going to have every match from the Gold Team Championship, at least in the Hearthstone portion. There is a Battlegrounds portion as well. Not quite sure what's happening with that yet. Each team nominates 1 player to play in the week. You'll see this is week 1. So Jing and Lee will be playing for week 1. There are 9 weeks. There are 3 phases of 3 weeks each. And there are rules that occur at the end of a phase, which involve banning players from other teams and all kinds of malarkey that I'm sure I'll get into as we go along. We are to some degree going to be learning this together as we go. Don't mind admitting this is recorded earlier last month in May. We are playing catch up a little bit, but we want to bring you everything we can about the Gold Team Championship so you can see for yourselves when we get to the World Championships who the players are, how they got there, and learn a bit more about the Chinese scene. More Hearthstone is always good, unless maybe you're Jing facing down a turn 1 coin Scrap Imp, of course. So with that in mind, who are these players? Well, regular viewers of Hearthstone will know these 2 players. Jing was top 4 in the World Championship in 2019. Putting in obviously a very good performance there. Suning were quite new at the time. And Lee has been around for a while and got to the summer playoffs amongst other things. Recently, top 32 in the Masters Tour that was called Los Angeles. Jing was in that one too. He came top 16. So these 2 very much a feature of modern Hearthstone. So let's see how they get on in this first match of the Team League. It is last hero standing. If you win with a class, you get to keep it. If you lose with a class, it is kicked out of your lineup and never seen again. With that in mind, Jing, it's turn 1 and you're facing the Scrap Imp. It makes life so difficult. Lee just needs to respond to this though. Facing down 5 damage on turn 2 himself. He knows full well that he wants to have a big handful of things when the Scrap Imp goes off, but can't afford to lose the board. If you lose the board to the Demon Hunter, that damage comes thick and fast. And with that in mind, Lee does decide to get down his merchant and just give himself some sort of board presence. That makes a massive difference. If Jing has to trade into this, the difference between 3 and 5 damage when you're only trying to survive a turn or 2 is ginormous. Jing will also be trying his hardest to get as wide as possible in this, and not an easy turn for him, not much to do. He does have the Raging Fell Screamer for turn 4, will allow him to play the Priestess on turn 5, but for all that to come off, he's got to have a board at the time. If the Priestess ends up firing into a wide board of buffed Scrap Heap minions, Scrap Heap? I'm going with that, it's a Scrap Heap minion now. Then it will just bounce off them all and just damage them all without really taking care of them. Priestess much better on an empty board or a board with 1 medium-sized minion. Yep, Jing pushing as much to face as is possible, choosing to keep back that I-beam for more damage, obviously putting 3 damage into a 1 health minion. Not ideal. And that allows Lee to take care of this Watcher. And from here on, it's looking like it's going to be very difficult for Jing to organise his forces in a way that is quick enough to get into it. The Voidwalker being a taunt is obviously an amazingly big problem for him to deal with. It's a 3/7, it's 7 extra damage he has to chew through before going about his business of hitting face. Saving that I-beam, obviously, that could have removed 1 damage last turn, will now do 3. But if you have the 3/2 on the board, you could argue the other way that you could put the 3/2 and the I-beam into the Voidwalker and then Hero Power would finish it off. And this was as you've probably just realised, are the unnerved versions of the decks. And I say as you've just realised, you realised it at the start of the game, as I've just realised. Yeah, this is the unnerved version. So it would still be 7 damage coming from the Priestess at the moment. But it's just a bit slow. This version always was a little slow. Viper was the main European player who liked to play this version. But a lot of the top pros did not like this version even before the nerfs and just wanted to go with what we currently regard as Tempo Demon Hunter. Obviously the Zoo, much stronger before the nerfs. If you take 1 health off all these minions, yes, it would still be a force. Yes, you'd still be in a great position to do a lot of damage. But you can see it'd be a lot easier to take care of bit by bit. And the Priestess would be a lot more dangerous against these in the modern society. With only having 5 health now, she is tough. Or not tough. Tough to keep about. So Jing has the chance to make a wide board, but the problem is he's so close to dying. There's 17 damage on the board right now for Lee, with a tap and a draw still to come. And that will mean that Jing can't face tank the 3. If Jing face tanks the 3 to try and activate the Setia to make a wider board, he'll die to the board. So needs to find a way to clear up some bits. Obviously there is an I-beam that can take care of the 5-3. But that's all well and good, but that means you're then not really getting the most out of these cards. Your next turn you want it to be Skull of Gul'dan. But you want a skull on a board where you're not just going to die immediately. Sure, you might draw a second I-beam, or you may draw a weapon, but you're going to be in a lot of trouble. There wasn't much healing in this version of the deck. So you're going to I-beam down the Matron now. Gain back the 5 health, or 3 of the 5 health. Goodness. And take care as much as he can of this Void Walker. Doesn't even kill it off, but very important to make that 2/2 minion just in case he gets another turn. And Lee here must be just tempted to dump his whole hand on the board. We'll have to have some sort of think about the Flame Imp. Taking 3 damage is potentially a way to walk into trouble. We have seen Demon Hunters win from all sorts of positions when their opponent is low, usually involving Altruist. So you want to play around Altruist in this situation, as in, can it kill me if they have a skull and an Altruist? Maybe get what's the absolute nightmare scenario. You don't want to lose too much sleep about it, but you have to be aware that sometimes that's the only way you can lose. So Lee is just going to take his time to work out how to play these 3/1 drops most likely. I vote you just put them all on the board, do a bit of trading, make sure you've got lethal the turn after. But I can see the hand, I can see that Jing has just no records right now. Yeah, by taking care of the opposing minions, that means that the Flame Imp 3 damage won't be that problematic to him. He's decided that he doesn't think that Jing is going to be able to find 11 from hand. Taking care of a bit of the danger just in case. But as you can see, I mean, Jing's hand is actually reasonably good, and it's just not going to be able to get anything done here. So the question becomes, can he survive 1 more turn? Well, he probably can. He can remove a 3/4 and a 2/2 of some sort. Would leave only 10 damage on board. I say only there with the greatest of air quotes, because obviously you're on 12, you have very little board, and your opponent has 10 damage coming in. You've got it to do. But with Skull of Gul'dan, you don't give up the fight until it's over. We have seen some incredible comebacks from time to time. Lee does appear to be sitting pretty here though. And the problem for Jing is there's no game plan. The game plan is kill all your opponent's minions with this motley crew of absolute dumpster minions. It's not really a fair fight at this point. But yeah, As suggested, leaves up 10 attack on the board. So yet another turn where he might not die. Well, there's another point of damage. Willing to tap. And the evil genius is just likely to pick up damage. As it happens, it does not. 2 in 7 chance twice. Comes out to 14 in 49 chance of just winning the game there and then for the extra point. I think, at least. Who knows? I mean, I should. It's my job to sum things. But that all being said, how do you actually do anything of use here? If you're Jing, I mean, I don't think you can even construct your deck to be in the correct order to escape this now. I don't think it's actually possible. But you don't want to make that guess at the board. You still go through the motions of drawing the cards just in case something nutty happens. But looking absolutely over here. Yeah, well, you play it, and you hit end turn, and you see if there's a combination that kills enough things to keep you alive. There may have been. Didn't happen, though. And Lee takes a 1-0 lead. Now, I think the graphics we're used to is a little bit misleading. That's just the 3 unbanned decks that we can see, I believe. This is Last Hero Standing, so thankfully, as we see it come up there, Lee is playing the Zoo again, so my information is correct. Thank you so much to Benage, Ben, Nidgez or Z, on Twitter for all the help he gave me regarding this event. Lots of help in terms of the structure and the players and such like. But still, bits and pieces I will be learning as we go along. I imagine that as the broadcasts go by and the weeks tick by, between feedback from the viewers and my own research, we will know a lot more about this. But some of the players we're going to have to learn about along with them playing. Some of the players are newer to the scene, and should they have good tournaments, we'll be able to learn about them by watching them play and make our own opinions. Obviously, I will definitely form opinions. It's what I like to do. It's why we watch, right? We decide who we like and who we like to cheer for, who we like to cheer against. It's the nature of gaming and sports and games in general. Okay, so no Scrap Imp here this time for Lee. That's a relief for Jing, playing the stealth version of the Rogue, which again was significantly less played than the secret version back when this took place. It's a little bit more level these days, since the nerf to Stunner in particular. And Jing does have what appears to be an ideal curve here. Just going to be able to curve through the Sage, draw lots of cards and challenge the Zoo on board. It's really weird casting Zoo sometimes because you repeat the phrase needs to win the board from both sides like 1,000 times. Not even exaggerating. If there's 7 turns, yeah, that's 140 times a turn. Definitely how many times I say it. But that really is, and always has been, and probably always will be, just how aggressive Warlock decks, which are almost always called Zoo. Even when they're doing other things, they usually have X Zoo, like Discard Zoo or whatever, attached to them. But taking control of the board is a big deal, and this carpet is something that must be removed. Otherwise, being allowed to use your minions as battering rams the turn they come into play with that rush into the rogue minions, Lee will start to gain control of things. And although Jing had the perfect curve, one problem with perfect curves, and don't get me wrong, I like it to be able to curve out my decks perfectly, is you only play one thing at a time. And if you're only playing one thing at a time against a deck that's trying to swamp you, that's not always ideal, as we're seeing here. This Sage is going to draw 2 cards, he's going to put 3/3 on the board, and then it's going to just get obliterated by the Soulfire or maybe the 3/1 on the board. However Lee sees fit. He's got the carpet as well to make things rush. No hurry to get too much damage to the face for Lee. He knows full well that the rogue can't deal with things for several turns yet. And here comes the army. Just going to start massacring things. Look at the buff here to the carpet. That is now a force to be reckoned with, and being hidden like this behind a taunt. Jing, from drawing the perfect curve, still has a lovely looking Hearthstone hand, but how is he going to deal with this board with the particular hand he has? If he doesn't get rid of the carpet, he'll never be able to stick a minion, but getting rid of the carpet, not only is it going to be impossible on one turn, it's not looking any fun to do over 2 turns. So with that in mind, maybe he'll keep back the Seal Fate and the Eviscerate and get rid of the carpet in one go. And this turn just do what he can to put useful things on the board. Maybe a 4-4 Edwin. Just play a 3-1 and a 4-4 Edwin and just... Here's some things to distract you while I kill your carpet. There hasn't been a scrap imp played, so the zoo minions are kind of manky right now. Yeah, I guess a 3-3 Sage is basically doing the same thing as a 4-4 Edwin here. So no reason to waste the Edwin. You might as well have more options available. Picking up the Galacron Priest there, then little bit more blocking ability. Shield of Galacron. I play so much Priest that everything is just a Galacron Priest now, right? Yeah, I was one of those people. I played more Warrior. I'm one of those people too. I'm not doing myself any favours here, am I? But what is the deck that you're supposed to play right now if you want to be the nice person? Definitely not Mage, not Warrior. I guess Rogue makes you the good guy? Sorry that I'm prattling on like this, but you can see what's happening. Yeah, Jing's just not impressed with this one bit. Sends out an emote. Not sure which emote it was, not sure it matters. I think the universal language of here's an emote, it's all I can do to express my disgust at what you're doing to me. I don't think it matters exactly what it says. Because it's certainly not what it means, whatever. It's always amused me that every emote in Hearthstone can be taken positively or negatively, although I have noticed that the design team have made some of them a lot less ambiguous. They've really worked on making it sound not sarcastic ever, which is really tough to do. Trust me, everything I say sounds sarcastic, and most of it is. Even that, and that. Looking here at how to do something. He's not going to die next turn, most likely. I think you've got to kill off the carpet. But now the problem is it too late? This is what he wanted to do going into last turn. He wanted to Seal Fate and Eviscerate this. That was the way to get back into the game. And he is sticking with that plan. It's gruesome, but at least now if you're going to fight back, and again, you know, you can see what's happening for yourselves. Very unlikely that he does, but the fight back begins with actually getting stuff to stick on board in some way or form. And getting rid of the carpet is the way to stop that from happening. Now you have to hope that Lee, in this zoo deck that is full of 1 and 2 drops, doesn't have a handful of 1 and 2 drops. And I think Jing may end up being rather disappointed here. He knows, but in the world where Lee's hand was absolutely horrific, maybe, just maybe, Jing gets half a turn to try and fight back on board. It's your duty when you're losing in Hearthstone to present your opponent with enough problems to make them finish the job. We've seen time and time again players who do hang in there in positions we've called lost as casters, that viewers have called lost, players themselves thought was lost. Sometimes weird stuff happens. Usually involving lackeys though, and there's not a lot going on that side for Jing. Lee making sure he sets up this 2-turn lethal. Not messing around here. Yeah, and Jing just shaking his head, like what can he do? From the second the carpet came down, he was in trouble. Maybe he could have tried to kill the carpet over 2 turns. But that would have involved him doing absolutely nothing of any sense or use. Can he even get another turn? That's the other thing you have to do. You have to treat each turn, especially when you're getting thrashed like this, as a series of puzzles. So just consider, okay, my puzzle is, can I get myself another turn? If you can solve that puzzle, then you can look at the puzzle of, can I get myself another turn and have any sort of board? And using this faceless here on the 1-1, trading your 3-1, trading the 4-4, does appear to get you at a turn where your opponent only can do 7 damage that you can see. It's not a good position, but if you always have that attitude, sometimes solving the puzzle will give you a nice answer. Talking of nice answers, look at the lovely little level 1 Galakrond under Jing's mana. Chinese production always has some nice little touches like that. I do hope that the regular production will steal them sooner rather than later. Not knowing Galakrond position is something that's quite hard to keep track of. Well casting. So the second genius. Loads of chances of getting +1 here. That's all he needs to get lethal. There it is. And Lee is taking a very rapid 2-0 lead in week 1, day 1 of the Gold Team Championship from China. Lee trying to get himself back into the big Western events as well as obviously representing his team, picking up a chunk of money and all the good stuff that goes with being a top Chinese professional player. So as last hero standing, this is always the bad news when you're 2-0 down. You're queuing up the deck you didn't want to queue. Looks like it's probably Highlander Hunter. Could be Dragon Hunter. I didn't see the mulligan properly, so I'll have to wait a moment and see here. And Lee's hand this time, he's like, it's getting worse. He doesn't have the magic carpet or the scrap imp this time. Choosing to get the extra cards. Yeah, Jing. Not impressed. And there we go. There's the carpet, but still no scrap imp. Jing may well be able to establish something on the board here. And yeah, Lee's not in a particularly great spot this time around. Jing's hand is fine. Able to take out minions with a weapon. And there's a Siamat, so there's the confirmation this is almost certainly a Highlander Hunter. Kind of default to that now, but bear in mind these matches were played pre-nerf. I think we'll be catching up slowly but surely with the Chinese events as we get more of these uploaded to YouTube. So I hope you'll bear with us whilst we do that. And obviously, if you are interested, please hit the subscribe. It'll help us immensely. And it will help you as well, because you'll get to know when new videos are uploaded. This is a very long tournament, and there'll be a lot of Hearthstone to be seen. And again, as it goes by, hopefully you'll gain favourites of your own and pick who you want to watch play. If you don't have time to watch every single match, get yourself some favourite players and cheer those people all the way to the World Championships. Obviously, at the moment, we do have a Chinese World Champion in Leaoh. I believe she is in this event somewhere. That's the sort of thing that if I was super well prepared, I'd have been able to tell you. But she was with VK. I actually don't know if she's transferred. And you'll probably hear me clicking in a second, because I'm going to find out. There we go. VK Lion, the world champion. So yes, she is in this event, trying to get back to that world championships to defend her title. I don't think we've ever had a world champion return to defend. Hunter came very, very close. Pavel also came pretty close to getting back to the World Championships. He got to like the last stage, I think twice when he tried to defend his title. I think what people forget about Pavel is his record as a great player happened after he won the world title. We all knew how good he was, but because of the incident against Amnesiac with the book, Pavel didn't get the respect he deserved, and so he went out and he earned it again. As if winning the World Championship once wasn't enough for respect. He went out and spent a whole year just destroying people. And he had a couple of 17th place finishes in top 16 cuts in that year as well. Or it may have been just saying levels of insane streak. But anyway, yeah, no one has been back there yet. And Lion's bid to get back there will occur during this tournament. Mukla offered there from Zephyrus because opposing hand is full. So why not have a 3-mana 5/5 that you can play right now? It's a big deal for Jing to be able to set up a big board like this. And although Lee does have that double Soulfire, he's probably hanging on to that for the likes of King Crush or really tricky boards. I don't think we're living in a world at the moment where 8 damage is that tricky. Although obviously Hunter does have Sunburst from hand, so you do want to keep what you take down at a minimum. Plus, at some point, you're going to want a hero power to draw cards, although obviously we're not at that point yet. Lee having a few issues here, trying to work out sequencing of what he wants to do, what he wants to play. He's just going to use the lackeys to take care of Zephyrus. It's quite alien because he wanted to play... He's changed his mind as well. He wanted to play the lackeys first. But obviously, once that occurred, as he takes care of Mukla and leaves Zephyrus up, that makes a lot more sense to me. The lackeys wouldn't have been able to do that. So yeah, this makes more sense. But yeah, the ordering is really difficult. If you decide you want to play the lackey, you want to play it first to see what spell you get. But then it doesn't get the rush from the carpet, so you end up having to play the carpet first. And I think in the end, Lee decided that he might as well not play them at all because that was a bit inconvenient. And he said, challenge the board, take care of Mukla, and do all that next turn if possible. But it does look like Jing is going to be able to take care of this carpet. He has multiple ways to do this. Just needs to work out if he wants to use the Hogsteed to do it that he's just drawn, or whether he wants to use the kill command. The problem with using the kill command is it's obviously 5 damage that could go face later. But again, as I've said all the way through, it's a zoo matchup. Worry about the board, winning the game will take care of itself. Because one of you is going to end up with a big board of things. Pirate will take care of the weapon. That seems like an immediate issue that needs resolving. Lee checking himself, make sure that... Don't just throw it down because you drew it and it looks good. See if you've got a better play. Always a sign of a good player when you can do that. Strong to very strong players will sometimes just pick up the card they need and wedge it onto the table as quickly as they can. And they will be right a large amount of time, so that starts a positive feedback cycle where you end up playing too quickly with new cards. But you should always try and look at the alternatives no matter how obvious the first play looks. Sometimes there will be other plays. This looks pretty good. Leaving up Zephyrus for another turn, but sure, it trades into the 5-1. You're still ahead by 2 minions to 0 on board with a handful of stuff ready to go very soon. How he wants to use the Scrap Imp is going to be interesting though. I think you just don't want to use it, to be honest. Draw some more cards, make good stuff. Maybe he's got time. If he can just get a little bit on board to defend himself whilst letting the Scrap Imp do its thing, that's fine. But the trouble is, at this stage of the game, you do need to contest the board. It's okay on turn 1 playing a Scrap Imp, or turn 2, and letting your opponent tickle you for a couple of turns, then you play a carpet and clear all that up. But he's already used a carpet, and your opponent isn't tickling you anymore. They're playing 6/6s with Wind Fury and Rush and Taunt and Divine Shields and things. Yep, I think Siamat may be coming, ladies and gentlemen. And so, yeah, challenging that with a 1-1 Argent Squire while you wait for your Scrap Imp is not quite the same league as it is early on in the game. Jing go for Rush and Divine Shield. And this is important because this is out of Soulfire range, which means that the 6/6 is around next turn. It was very tempting there to play the Wind Fury and the Rush. Would have cleared up the board, but he would only have a 6/3, which with the Wind Fury would have been interesting because if it wasn't dealt with, would have done 12. But at some point you've got to assess what Lee's hand is. Why has he been sat there with most of these cards for the entire game? And I think with that in mind, Jing has made the read, the good read, that there are Soulfires hanging around, and so he needed to protect that Siamat with all he could. Not the best of pickups right now. Really wants to find some of that extra beef in the deck. Alex Straz would be ideal. Dino Tamer Bran would be fine. I don't know if he runs the Grand Slam or not. Probably not, but some other big stuff in the deck would be nice. And instead he's going to have to do what he can with this. Just this motley collection of nothing. Still nice to have something on board. Maybe he can draw something next turn or two to keep it going. And of course, Lee does have to deal with this. Now Lee running out of things to do a little bit. Loads of cards to be drawn. Oh, and that's one of the better ones, because now he can just play the carpet and lob all these things onto the board, clear up the opposing board, and his opponent has one card. Lee with the ability to tap, with the ability to draw spells from his lackey. Got the double Soulfire in case of accidents. You have to assume that can do 8 damage. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't. But his main question is, what do I do about an Alex Straza right now? And the answer is, hope it goes away. Hope it whiffs. I want to have the board against it, personally. Think it's late enough in the game. Maybe he feels he hasn't got the resources if he's thinking this long, maybe about the Scrap Imps, but I think this late in the game, you just play some minions on the board. So, yep. Here comes the carpet. Yet again buffing it. Does that every time, you'll have noticed through this match. And splitting the difference a little bit with this Scrap Imp. Feels like he's ahead on board. What a pickup from Jing, though. And now we have the question that nobody ever wants to face in their right minds. Do I put this 8/8 dinosaur into a 1/8 carpet? Or do I just smack my opponent with it? You've got 2 turns before things are going to get bad. Your opponent has a full hand, or will have by then. If you go face here, then Lee's probably going to have to put some minions down to deal with it, and that'll take away from the Scrap Imp. But again, I think Jing has this read. I think he has the read on the double Soulfire and doesn't want to take that chance. It's painful. But now he's put Lee on the back foot. Lee has got to face down 13 points of minions alone next turn. And to do that, he's going to have to do the Scrap Imp thing. Or is he? Because with 7 cards remaining in his deck, he's pulled Zephyrus. Zephyrus, of course, can get various Shadow Words from Priest to get rid of the King Crush. Usually used as a buff card. But in this situation, it might offer Brawl, you would imagine. Doubt it'll offer any sort of freeze when Brawl's an option. You're on 19. It might do. You can probably also manipulate that, but you'd rather just have a Brawl and take your chance, I guess. If you are going to Brawl, you have to decide, do you want to put more minions on the board? But obviously then you might be less likely to get offered the Brawl. Zephyrus works in mysterious ways. And although it sounds like from the voice line and from the flavour text, everything that Zephyrus guides you, You actually guide Zephyrus. You have to teach Zephyrus what it is you want. And yeah, BGH was offered there as well, is worth noting. Shoot down the 87 is better than just playing the Shadow of Death. You should make a minion of your own. And of course Zephyrus wins the brawl. Why? Yeah, Jing's just having one of those days. He's gone through frustrated into acceptance, I think, now. Yeah, and of course he draws his 1-drop on turn 10 as well, when he's looking for big things to do. It's not what Jing fans want to see at all. In fact, they hate to see that. Without this Zephyrus, I think Lee would have been in trouble, and playing those Scrap Imps may have been quite punishing to him. He may have ended up having to use the Soulfires. Okay, he gets the 3 cards, but from the discard most likely. He's nearly out of cards in his deck. I don't know. Maybe he just felt he needed the Scrap Imps because there's not much left in his deck. Either way though, Jing has had pretty bad start here. He's going to need some sort of crazy Alex Straza out, I think, now to get back into this one. Otherwise he's going to go down 3-0 in the first day of the first week of the tournament. And it is a team tournament. Now, that shouldn't matter. We can all see that Jing has basically not had a chance in most of these. You know, he's had some decisions to make, but not many. He has just been steamrolled here by Lee. But it weighs on your mind. You're playing for other people as well as yourself. And that is something that, if you're not strong-willed, can really get to you. You know, you've got to go apologise to your teammates or whatever, or do you just accept that this is what happened? You know you did your best. Certainly when I used to play golf back when I was a young lad, if you played pairs, there was no sorries. You assume each other's trying the best. You don't apologise because that kind of implies you weren't trying your best. So we made the no sorry rule. You play, afterwards if you lose, you look at each other, and then you go to the clubhouse and chill out. You don't apologise for hitting it into the trees. It's assumed you weren't trying to do that. Although if you watched me play, you probably thought I was trying to do that, because I was pretty good at hitting it into the trees. As I blunder and faff my way through these last few turns, because Lee just has, from where we're sat, the license to do whatever he likes. But fair play to him. What we've seen him do here is get himself a chance to set up a taunt as well as some win conditions if he wants it. But he has set up lethal instead, and he set up lethal, if my numbering is correct, yeah, with only 1 Soulfire required. And that will be deliberate. Yeah, so when you get those games where you discard Soulfire to Soulfire, maybe, just maybe, it's because you didn't leave it as an option. So yeah, Jing's card's just not coming in the right order for him at all in this one. And now Lee has a very strong chance of winning next turn. Be interested to see if he goes for the Soulfire. I think he should. Worst case is you lose a 1 in 7 and set up some taunts and do a little bit of trading and set up lethal for the turn after. But nearly always, 6 times out of 7, you just win the game on the spot. Win the match on the spot. RNG get the win. Lee gets the personal win. And Jing, well, to be fair to him, he didn't get a chance to play much Hearthstone today. When Zoo rolls in Last Hero Standing, my goodness, it seems like a formidable force. And the interesting thing there was that the Zoo didn't have crazy draws in every game. We'll be back later with another match from this first day. But for now, see you all soon.